Do people in the Midwest save differently than those of us on the West Coast or the East Coast? Let's find out. Number one, get a budgeting app. I know some people love these, but I kind of find them a little bit much, honestly. And maybe that's just because technology is not my strong suit, but I do like to keep things as simple as possible. And I do know how to use Excel, so that's kind of techie. So our budget was made in Excel, but then we just print it out each month and then write in all of our expenses as the month goes. But really nowadays, there's so many options. It's all about what works for you. So if you hate the idea of making a budget in Excel or even just making a makeshift budget on a piece of paper or a piece of graph paper, if you're getting fancy, you have other things you can try. There are lots of apps. There are lots of pre-made spreadsheets that you can use. It's all about what gets you to actually do the budgeting. But try not to get overwhelmed with the abundance of choices, because the last thing you want to do is spend the next year researching all the million different ways that you could budget and not actually spend any time budgeting. And that's kind of my beef with apps, is that you spend so much time tinkering and trying to make it look right and fixing everything and connecting everything that you aren't actually focusing on what am I spending? How much did I spend in this category? You're like, why does it look funny? And why did that number automatically go in the health budget when it was supposed to go in the transportation budget and stuff like that? I'm like, I do not want to waste time figuring that out and messing with that. But maybe that's your jam, and that's okay too. Find accountability. And if you are married, this is super simple because your accountability partner is your spouse. No hiding spending from each other. It's best to just have open, honest conversations about everything. This is made a lot easier if you just have everything as joint, and that's how we manage it. But I know other people successfully manage their money with their spouse a little bit separately, but those are all predetermined things by them. This is all about communicating with your partner and not leaving them in the dark about what is happening with money. And like she also says in this article, it's a great idea to have you can spend this much money without us having a conversation about it. So for them, anything under $50, there's not a conversation. There's not a, hey, I was thinking about buying this thing. Is that cool? So we kind of have a couple ways that me and my husband deal with this in our relationship. And one of them is fun money. Each one of us gets a set amount of fun money each month that we can spend however we would like. So that amount of fun money is, of course, no questions asked. But then if things fall under the regular spending, we're not really talking about it. We're just doing it, we're accounting for it, or we're putting the receipt on the side of the fridge. That's our high-tech way of keeping track of everything. But I would say our threshold is about $100. If I'm spending more than $100 on something, I'll probably be like, hey, so I was thinking about buying this air purifier that's super cool and zaps the dust. What do you think? We have this money here that we could spend on that. And he's normally like, yay, because I'm normally the one that's like, I don't think we should buy that. If you don't have a spouse or partner, this accountability can get a little bit more tricky. I don't know if you could do this with your roommate or perhaps your best friend. I kind of did this accountability thing with my best friend about my piano practicing, and we would check in every week and she knew to ask me about it. So maybe that would work if you didn't have a partner. What things have worked for you if you aren't in a relationship to help you stay on your money goals? Next is categorize your spending. And I think this is actually kind of an underrated tip that I don't hear in a lot of these lists, but I think it's actually really important, because if you're like, I have $2,000 to spend on the rest of my life that's not rent and power, that can kind of float away. And it can get hard to understand where you overspend and where you need to adjust your budget to fit reality if you're not putting things in buckets. Now, don't get crazy. You don't need 20 buckets. That's too much, because that adds that complication factor, which means you're going to spend more time organizing your budget than actually budgeting, which I'm totally against. But have a few categories. So I'm thinking about food, I'm thinking about transportation, I'm thinking about health, I'm thinking about fun money, kids, and probably home, and maybe a miscellaneous. And that's not a ton, but it's a few so that you can understand how your budget's really going. It's really just a tool to help you budget better and to understand what's happening and what months are just crazy in the miscellaneous category because you forgot about the 5 birthdays that are in February. Limit shopping trips. This is making me wonder if I'm actually from the Midwest, even though I've lived on the West Coast my entire life, because this is one of my number one savings hacks, is to go to the store less. Stores are designed to help you spend more money. Yes, even grocery stores. You know how all the vegetables are normally in the front of the store somehow, so that's your first thing that you get. And then as you're cruising along and you see all those extra items, those chips, those crackers that maybe you need or maybe you don't, you're like, you know what? I've already gotten all my vegetables. I've got my bases covered, so I'm good now. It's okay if I add this extra item because I've already accomplished the main, most important, healthiest part of my shopping trip. And what about those $5, $1 sections at Target? And now Kroger is starting to have them. I have to admit, I love those sections and I pretty much look in them every single time we're there. But you know what that does? It makes you spend more money. So one way to avoid this is to do grocery pickup, which can really help because you can't be tempted by all the things in the $1 bin. But also, if you just don't go to the store as many times, you won't be as tempted. So we try to do one big fresh grocery haul a week because, berries don't keep for a month. And then we do one big Costco haul a month. So ideally, we're only going to the store 5 times a month. Does that always work out? Absolutely not. But we do our best to do that so that we're not going to the store 4 or 5 times a week and then, oh, oops, there's $60. Oops, there's another $100. We just don't want that to happen, and this is a good way to avoid it. Cut out recreational shopping. Now, this one really cracks me up because I have been a recreational shopper. One of my favorite things to do with my mom as a teenager, and still one of my favorite things to do, was to go shopping. We would go to the mall, we would check everything out, we would try fun things on, ridiculous things, or then we would go to the bookstore, Barnes and Noble. Man, that was my favorite kind of day, was going out and shopping. And of course, we spent money. But when I moved away for college, I moved somewhere pretty rural, and there are not that many opportunities to shop. And at the beginning, I really missed all those opportunities to go to the mall, to go to Old Navy, all my old favorite spots. But I started to realize that it really helped my budget. My weekends started to get full of things like playing at the park or going hiking instead of going shopping. Now, if you live in a city that has so many opportunities for great shopping, this could be much more of a temptation. So I didn't actually fight this one by having the willpower to stop having my recreational activity being shopping. I simply moved away from the stores. Wait 2 weeks for an online purchase and don't buy after 7 p.m. So I've heard of the 24-hour rule where you leave your Amazon purchases in your cart for a day or two, but 2 weeks, that's impressive. And that would definitely distance you from that urge that you have suddenly to buy that hair crimper like I do, perhaps. But also the after 7 p.m., that's also really smart because I am tired. I have 3 little kids. I work hard all day. And by the time you get to bedtime, your willpower is on a whole lower level. Yes, I do deserve a little treat. And yes, I do need a new dress. But probably instead of browsing Amazon and watching way too many shorts, I should be having a cup of tea and going to bed. Do you think most of your impulse purchases happen after 7 p.m.? If you like videos like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more. Can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye for now.